if I'm not the best moderator. I just want to put that out there first and foremost. But welcome to TF6, friends. When we're talking about all of these topics and we're looking from an entrepreneurial space, what would you, I mean, just on the topic in general, let's just start and work our way down. What would you say is the biggest hurdle that's preventing growth and adoption, and what can we do to accelerate that?
I mean, it's easy to talk about, I think, the UI UX of Web3 today. I'd say regulation, at least at Hedera, seems to be one of the biggest hurdles, just because it's hard to find adoption of this technology in enterprise organizations or larger organizations that are trying to abide by rules and regulations, but still be on the cutting edge of what it is that we're striving towards. So, in my mind, regulation and having concrete rules around Web3 is a big hurdle that we're facing.
All right, well, let's keep going on down the line.
Hi, I'm Bridget Seveny. My answer to that is in the line of education at the user level. Because I've been telling my dad and my mom what I do, and it's so hard to get through to them. Yeah.
Tomas?
Yeah, I think, look, at Chainlink we believe that the future world will be based on truth versus trust. And I think that decentralization and ability to truly rely on smart contracts is going to deliver more users and more reliance on blockchain, right? Today it's a hybrid. Today we have DAOs, we talk about smart contracts, but there are still people that stop them, start them, they do things to them in a very centralized way. So I think as this thing gets more automated, we actually believe in what we say, so we start to believe in math and automate things. I think that will make a big difference.
Good point. I agree with all of them.
Drop the mic.
But I think there are three major things. Number one is just perception. Perception among the public, it comes from what they hear from media, from government agencies and everybody else. Like, is it a Ponzi scheme? Like, even I was talking to a gentleman who was saying, like, this is all a Ponzi scheme. This is how most of the people think about the blockchain equals Bitcoin equals, mining or just the betting on it without having the understanding of the fundamental technology. Second thing is where every technology has been before, which is how do you build a good business model? How do you bring the efficiency to end user, which is a combination of right business processes and the UX and UI. And lastly, what draws attention is the adoption cycle, right? We are decentralized. We are trying to, I wouldn't say we are destabilizing, but we are definitely changing how the business is being done, right? You touch upon that a little bit when you think about, the Facebook owns your identity today, or Twitter owns your identity today, and we are looking at the world where you own your own identity. So the established business model that has been present at least since the last technology revolution in 2000 or 2010 is no more valid. So it's changing the fundamental perception, going back to the perception issue that you are starting with a negative perception, you are not supported by the regulators in terms of driving the innovation, and then you are trying to change how we will operate in the business. So kind of I don't want to use the word dilemma that gets used quite often, but I think that is where the struggle is. And I truly believe that once we break out of it, this is going to be the really new paradigm shift for how technology.
You just said a lot there that really some buzzwords that made me go excited. UX and UI obviously are the first two things that come top to mind. But I just want to ask you guys, just in general as a panel, when we're talking about brands or companies getting into this, what advice would you give them starting out? Because it's kind of a slippery slope, and we see that the brands and the companies want to get into this. What advice would you give them, individually? If you had a one-on-one, what would you say?
I guess it depends on what it is that they're trying to get into exactly. I think it's a lot different if it's a brand or company that's trying to create NFTs.
Just in general, because we see so many brands want to go, we want to get into Web3, and they don't even know what Web3 is. So I just want to do it. Like Life Cereal, Mikey likes it. I want a Life NFT. Do I really? I don't know. What's the value? What would you say?
Well, I think, so we'll use the example of a brand or a company that exists today that wants to get into the NFT space. Let's say it's like a Nike or a Reebok, and they want to see NFTs for athletes that they sponsor that they're issuing to people that are interested in those individuals or those teams. I think one of the biggest things that they're going to have to look at is how the existing ecosystems work today, what it is that's driving interest and adoption by users that are already familiar with Web3, and then adapting to today's standards and usage and UI, UX, and everything else that goes along with that. I don't think that today's standards and usage of UI, UX, and everything like that is going to continue to persist. I think it's always evolving. And so you're going to start to see an evolution, and you know, by which they're going to have to adopt to. Hopefully it becomes easier, but yeah. But at least today, I think they should be looking at it in terms of, okay, what are the, you know, how are people using it today? Why are they using it today? And then start foundationally, like, why are you even interested in this? Is it a money grab? Or are you going to allow them to do something with this? Are you building an entire ecosystem?
We're all here for the tech, right?
Yeah, right. They should be.
I mean, but keep going, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. So yeah, I mean, trying to understand, like, is this a business unit within your company or your organization that's going to evolve with the ecosystem, or is it a quick money grab for something that is potentially passing? Yeah.
My crypto experience has been in the fintech space, and the most important thing that the company I've been with, I'm going to be leaving them. So
Okay, really quick, just a little backstory. Bridget and I spoke last night. There's not much that Bridget can talk about because she's got NDAs. She's kind of, you know, she's up there. So we're going to just make it easy on her, so she'll talk about whatever she wants to talk about. I just want to make it easy on you, friend. Don't want to put you in a very precarious position.
But
I appreciate it.
what I can share is that the biggest part about being in the crypto fintech space is trust with your clients. And so having regulation has actually been good for my company.
I think as you know, Web2 companies or fintech companies are getting in this space, the technological complexity is massive, right? Which blockchain do we pick? You know, what do we do? And the pace of innovation is massive. I think one, you have to clearly you are trying to accomplish something, right? So you have a goal, but there's a lot of technologies that are being built by Polygon, other blockchains. You need to be aware of what's being built because you don't have to start from scratch, right? You don't have to start from, you know, the very basic programming. A lot of those layers and applications, just like they exist in Web 2, are now being built in Web 3, which will make everything easier, right? I mean, Chainlink is definitely in the middle of that, but there, you know, Polygon, other companies are doing the same thing. You don't build your wallet. There's 1,000 other wallets, right? You don't build some of that integration that already exists. So just use what's there.
Awesome.
And I will again go with my three things structure, which is like the folks that are blockchain native, folks that are digital native, and those who are behind the curve. And everything starts with education. Like every time you're looking at NFT, just don't look at it as a digital asset or just a batting phenomena, right? What can NFT do for you? Right? This could be a computational mechanism. You can use NFTs in so many different ways. They can exist on the blockchain that can certify so many things for the future. So again, for the companies and the brands, like start small, start experimenting, try to understand what it can do for you, how can it transform your business model, and where can you go from there. Right? When I worked for Facebook for a long time, and at Facebook I was very much inspired by the leader of the solutions engineering team, and he always tells the customer start with experimentation. Put that data analyst first, then put the engineer, because you need to know what you want to do, what you want to measure, what you build, and then go and experiment it out, and then see where it can take your business.
That's a great point too, in terms of the infancy that we're at with Web3 in general. Is it's a complete state of experimentation. We have no idea what it's going to end up actually resulting in down the road. We have some idea, we're trying to get there, but you know, maybe at this point in time, actually, the benefit of a lack of regulation is the fact that we're able to experiment in that way. There's obvious downsides in doing so, but I agree with that.
Yeah, and I think we are seeing some fruits from that, right? I mean, Nike recently acquired an NFT company, right? So let the developers, the CTOs, the small startups, the VCs experiment, and then brands can kind of like wait and see, and they can just buy the talent, buy the company, right?
Yeah, didn't Nike buy Artifact? Wasn't that what it was? Nike bought Artifact, yeah.
just an NFT studio.
So from a Web3 standpoint, we're talking about the dev communities. What would you say from your standpoints individually when we're talking about these companies or brands, et cetera, that are coming? What is the biggest hurdle that they face? Would you say, like, what is the biggest thing to stumble? Is it education? Is that what it is? Because it seems like that might be the theme. Yeah, go ahead.
In the dev community, I think it's about so much opportunity and attracting the talent to your company, because there's been a 400% plus increase in jobs available over the last year. And so for my company to attract talent when we're still more Web 2.5, but we still want people who are willing to work in the crypto space.
Yeah,
I would say still the quality of talent, right? Because there is so much demand and the supply is still restricted. You see more hustlers. I was talking to somebody earlier too, like the more hustlers, and you need people who have the hustling skills, but they also have the process knowledge, the business understanding, and how to combine these two things together. Like if you look at just purely the numbers, you know, the Web2 has about close to 25-30 million developers, right? And in Web3 communities, even the best estimates are you have less than 500,000 developers. So if this industry has to transform, it needs to attract the talent, both at the entry level, middle level, and the senior level. And I think that's where the perception, regulations, and education can help us in long term.
I think we need to go beyond attracting the talent. I think there is a bit of an apprenticeship. Basically, we need to train the talent. And this has been done in other industries, right? Other large enterprises have taken that initiative. They've trained their engineers. And I think this industry will need to do the same. You know, we have people like Patrick Collins putting out free videos and free training. So sure, you can go to YouTube and actually learn something there.
I'm doing a lot of those videos on YouTube, by the way. And if you hit that like button, I'd appreciate it. Keep going. Anyways.
Yeah, no, look, I think we need to grow the talent ourselves. We just can't expect to hire it and take some responsibility.
I think there's two aspects that are important here. The first one is the idea of people who are considered to be boundary spanners. And these are people that come from established Web 2 organizations and they're typically developers that are interested in a Web 3 way of doing things. And coming from those specific organizations that play in a certain market or type of application that come over to Web 3, relay information back to those people that are in those organizations. And then I think that in itself ends up becoming even more pronounced as you start to see applications and use cases in Web 3 actually become competitive to the existing establishment of Web 2 use cases and applications, because the people that move over are the ones that I think naturally have the ability to see where things are headed. They are visionaries and they go.
Do you guys, I'm just to throw this out there, do you think that the Web 2 folks are kind of like the old girl, like, hey, we don't want to upset the apple cart because this could disrupt our economic model, et cetera. So we want to, same with banking and financial services across the board.
Yeah, I think the Web 2 companies will struggle. It's like the taxis, right? There are some cities that you can order a taxi on your Uber app, but it took like 5 years. At first they fought it, they sued them, they did everything to make it impossible. Eventually they're trying to, they're teaming with them. I think the same thing's going to happen with Web 2, right? I mean, we are trying to decentralize social networks, right? The guys from Ava are trying to build a new, better Twitter, decentralized Twitter. A lot of people are talking about doing that on the blockchain. I don't think Facebook will take to that lightly, right? I mean, they shouldn't, right? It's there, it kind of like belongs to them today.
Well, and Web3 used to its fullest potential requires a complete reinvention rather than like an iterative thing as well.
Yeah, I agree. So I think we'll see some adoption, but I think it's going to be a lot of destruction.
Web 2, I've heard, and correct me, this is just an analogy I've heard put out by people I think are smarter than me, is that it's a lot like Swiss cheese. It's great, but there's a lot of holes. that like things happen through, and this is really what we're trying to do with Web 3, is that we're able to create more of like Mr. Yusko said so eloquently, the trust net, and where we're able to control that data, and we're able to do these things. Who do you think right now is leading the forefront of Web 3 development?
I think it's people that are creating the underlying protocols for those future sets of applications. So I think social networks is probably a good one to look at. There are new protocols coming to light where they're creating a foundational layer for, for better or worse, anti-censorship in social media. And then the applications that are built on top of them basically plug into that protocol, and they themselves can define what's constituted as acceptable or unacceptable content. They have their own algorithms, they have their own way of doing business, but you have multiple applications that exist above that protocol layer that still utilize the foundational protocol for a social media network. I think that's applicable across other types of use cases or applications as well.
Bridget, no?
Yeah, it's
Bridget's going to pass the mic.
I'm still in the crypto 2.5 space.
Okay. We'll pray for you. I love you, friend. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm going to answer a little differently. I can't pick winners. I can tell you that I'm lucky enough to speak to projects when they're early on their stages, picking their platforms, picking their architecture. There is massive amount of innovation, right? There are, insurance on blockchain clearly is going to happen. Carbon on blockchain clearly is going to happen. There is innovation going in those spaces. Clearly you're seeing DeFi, right? I mean, there's lending, borrowing protocols. They are not going anywhere. They are established, they are secure, they have proven their worth. There's lots of experimentation and things will fail, but there is already some winners that are starting to establish themselves in the niches. But I think, beyond DeFi, there is many other niches that are yet to be invented and established. And I'm seeing some of it, and I mentioned carbon, I mentioned insurance, but there is more social, yeah.
Ali? I think it's happening across the board. I'm a big fan of what the innovation that's happening in the gaming. You see that they are just completely reinventing how the games are being built. How do you monetize those games? How you are even enabling the players earn to play, right? Those are the things that are definitely coming to fruition with the blockchain technology. Other things that I'm seeing that where Polygon has worked with multiple governments around the world of how they're distributing the benefit systems, right? Everything is on the decentralized system. It's visible to everyone while it is still able to secure the confidential information. And it makes it transparent, it makes it decentralized, and it gives the power to people and provides a better governance. So I think the innovation is happening across the board. It's up to the folks I think one of you guys mentioned, how do they not only think about the current business model, but how to break it and the carnage that's going to happen as a result, but for the better, right? It's like you go to the gym, you tear your muscles, and next day, if you do it right, your muscles get bigger and better.
I want to ask you another, we hear so many word salads out there on the crypto, Twitter, etc. But when it comes to Web3, let's talk about, I'm just going to throw some out there, and I'd just love for you guys just to go down the line here. Bridget, I don't know what you can talk about because I love you for being here, but I just want to ask y'all, I'm going to throw some things out here. GameFi, MachineFi, Move to Earn, Play to Earn, all these kinds of to-earn type of things that are surrounding Web3. Your thoughts on that? MachineFi, GameFi, Move to Earn, Play to Earn. Unpack that for me, Web3.
I can touch on play to earn. So I think play to earn games, we call them games, and I think they're modeled in a way that they look like games. They're toys, they've got characters, and people are using these characters to perform certain tasks, and they're earning cryptocurrency for doing those tasks. And in many cases, like with Axie Infinity, you've seen it exploited almost in a way where you put the upfront capital towards a specific character and then rent out the character to people in countries where they end up playing this game repetitively to earn a small percentage of cryptocurrency as part of that. I think the bigger picture of that, as well as other things that we're seeing in Web3, is that they are the underlying framework or innovation that's being created there is that it's a model that can be used in the future for something that actually holds value rather than it being a toy. So One example of that could be instead of it being a character in a game that's rented out to people to use to perform some sort of activity within the game, it could instead be a regenerative art algorithm that's rented to someone who inputs specific things and then outputs art.
Let me ask you this really quick, because I know folks already, personally, friends of mine who are into Decentraland, that like they got some like hoodie that like when they wear it, like they get like X amount of like if you're getting right. So and then when he's not playing, he's now renting out that hoodie. He's got an alternative revenue stream from this guy in the Philippines who's now making money for him, which is then able to pay his phone bill.
Right.
Unpack that for me.
Yeah, I don't think it's. I mean, it's up to everyone's own like moral compass to decide whether or not that's right or wrong. But I do think that that's not going to be the final evolution of what this is. I think there's some valuable economic frameworks that are being created as part of it.
Tomas wants to get on this.
Yeah, I do. So I think what happened is that blockchain and ability to tokenize things has created new opportunities for sharing the value that's being generated. So imagine that, I bought things from Amazon 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Imagine that every purchase came with a little piece of a share of Amazon. I would have been quite wealthy today, right? But even if they wanted to, they couldn't technically do that. There was no technology to deliver that. On blockchain, you can do it virtually for free, right? So now what we are doing is there's innovation happening in how people and how you pay the players that add value to your network, to your game. How do you, pay them back? And it would be tokens, would it be NFTs, whatever it is. But the technology now exists to do it to make it possible. So there's innovation in that, right? That's, I think, what we are seeing across the board with the DAOs, with gamifying things. It's that creator economy. How do the lines between a customer, a consumer, and a seller are blurring, right? Now, if I own tokens in Amazon and I get more of them, the more stuff I buy from Amazon, I'm not going to Target. I don't have Target tokens, and I want my Amazon token to go up, right? So now I'm talking to my friends, hey, you need to be in this Amazon DAO, and by the way, here's a coupon, buy your next dishwasher from Amazon, right? That is something that I'm sure we want to.
Are they going to use Chainlink as an oracle for that? Because I just want to buy some now, just in case. No? Okay. Anyways.
Sure, thank you.
No, that's really, you're so savage. Yeah, go ahead.
And it's a shift from the credit card that gets you Amazon points
Right.
or the Starbucks.
It's an evolution on that.
This is something that Jonathan Blanco, he was really ahead of the curve on this with token points and loyalty points, and this was something that he's been doing since 2017. Dalen, what do you think, man? Go ahead, what do you think? Unpack it.
I agree with all of them. But I do think that the fundamental shift is the technologies that are coming up. The technology that might get proven in one part of the value chain, like the gamification that allows you to share the benefits, create the creator economy, can get leverage in other parts of the businesses, right? One of the biggest thing about the online business, success of the online businesses today is that the micro economics that worked back in 10, 15 years ago, which was like, how do you do the micro transactions? That does not cost you $3 to every transaction, right? That was a I think you're moving closer. Okay. So I think some of these technologies that are coming today will become the precursors of like what is yet to come. Like that's why I think the carnage that you mentioned before, I think that will happen. The innovation will happen across the board with the smaller companies that are more innovative. That does not have the taxation from the past, so they can innovate freely, but those innovation can get merged into the different segments within the industries.
When it comes to Web3, because it seems like it's such almost like a buzzword, like now it's like everybody's talking about it, it's been co-opted and even in the headlines on CNBC, etc. But when we talk about Web3 and we're talking about developers who are really putting in the work on the front line and the trenches, what do you think from your perspective they're concerned about the most? What is the biggest concern for a Web3 developer right now? I know it's a tough question. Take your time to marinate on that.
Yeah, Look, I think depends where they are in the journey. I think some of the mature ones are truly believe that they are changing the world and building a better world for them, for their kids. The new ones are wondering if their mom is right and they are doing something crazy and they should be working for Amazon or Microsoft and not wasting their time on this magic internet money. But look, I think once you've been in this space for a couple of years, you do realize that this is life-changing, this is game-changing, and I think they get truly excited. Yeah.
I think deciding on what network and platform and standards they're using as part of the development process is really important. I think, if, for example, recent events on Terra Luna, that network went down, and it was very unexpected. They were doing, incredibly well. Certain
I
things
almost got a
exploited.
tattoo myself.
Yeah,
So
there you go.
almost.
And so ensuring that they're building on something that has a foreseeable future in the space and trying to mitigate the risks around that is one that I think people are observing, developers are observing a bit more today.
We're getting close on time, so let's just go down the line and finish it up with your clothing thoughts on that, or you can put your clothing thoughts on, whatever.
To the question you just asked,
Yeah,
it's
no.
about opportunity. In my company, there's a dozen big teams. One of them has a roadmap that's actually dealing with blockchain. And everybody wants to join that team at the risk of the other stuff that makes our company successful. And so if you look at that as a microcosm and think larger in the scale of the true Web3 space, it's got to be about opportunity.
I would think I have been in the industry only for 3 months. What I have seen is that opportunity is enormous. Opportunity across the board. There are people who are in the industry, I get up every day at 4 o'clock and I have the meetings back to back till 12. I'm not burning out. I just feel so enthusiastic about working with my team days in, days out. But there is this problem of scaling the teams, the people with the right mindset and skill set. That's where we need the industry to come together. We're gonna compete with each other, but at the same time, we're gonna cooperate with each other. How do we build out this regulation that's favorable to the industry? How do we work with the education institute that they are building out the next skill set during the school years and college years? And I think my forecast is that the industry is going in the right trends. The things are coming together to make it more successful.
Anybody else? Tom?
Yeah, look, I think that what we are building here will make for a better world. Imagine where insurance contracts or agreements get executed as agreed to. You don't have to have a third-party, counterparty validating it, lawyers spending time on it. It will take time. There will be mistakes made. But I do believe that math is more honest and we can rely more than we can rely on people. And it will be, symbiotic, better world.
I think on that note, mic drop. We can depend on math more than we can depend on people. Somebody should tweet that. Let's give a round of applause to our fire panelists up here. Building Web3 dev communities with Dela, Bridget, Brady, and Tomas.